Welcome back, traveler. The fire is warm, and every fire has its story, so cozy up and prepare yourself for tonight's tale. For tonight's story is not written in the pages of history, but whispered between smoke and memory. Join me by the fire and enjoy the story. Snow fell quietly over Dunmere on the 9th evening. The village rooftops had turned white by sunset, and beyond the windows of the sleeping stag, the mountain roads had nearly vanished beneath drifting frost and mist. Travelers arriving from the south stamped snow from their boots before hurrying toward the warmth of the hearth. Inside, every chair had been filled long before nightfall. Even the tavern kitchen had gone silent now whenever the traveler spoke. The fire burned bright and deep gold against the old stones as shadows swayed gently across the crowded room. For a long while, the traveler said nothing. He simply watched the flames. Then, at last, the stranger vanished after the vision. His voice remained soft and steady. Morel found herself alone once more inside the abandoned shrine overlooking the harbor. Outside, wind brushed softly against the tavern walls. The crimson sky disappeared. A pause. The black trees vanished. Another pause. And the sea returned. The listeners remained completely silent. But the bangle no longer felt the same. The traveler folded his hands carefully. Morel claimed the ruby had grown warmer. Another pause. Almost restless. The fire crackled low. She returned to the others before dawn and told them everything. The innkeeper frowned slightly. And Corvin? The traveler sighed quietly. He finally admitted the truth. Silence settled heavily across the tavern. He had known from the beginning the artifact was connected to World Crossing. Another pause. But until Selverin, the traveler stared into the flames. He had not realized the barriers themselves were weakening. Outside, snow drifted steadily through the dark mountain streets. The travelers decided they could no longer remain in the city. His voice softened again into calm narration. They booked passage east aboard a small coastal vessel called the Lantern Tide. Several villagers smiled faintly at the name. A weathered ship, the traveler continued. Creaking wood and faded sails patched so many times they barely matched anymore. The blacksmith chuckled quietly. So, a normal ship. Soft laughter warmed the room briefly. The traveler smiled faintly. Yes, another pause. But its captain agreed to sail where larger ships refused. The firelight danced gently across his face. Beyond the eastern waters lay the kingdom of Valor. The room grew still again. A land hidden behind cliffs and storms. Another pause. A place many believed no longer existed. The innkeeper's daughter leaned closer. So they finally reached it? The traveler nodded slowly. After 12 days at sea, his voice became quieter now, more atmospheric. The voyage was not easy. A pause. Storms followed them constantly. Another pause. And twice during the journey, the fire cracked softly. The crew reported seeing lights moving beneath the water beside the ship. A faint chill moved through the room. "What kind of lights?" whispered someone near the back. The traveler lowered his voice slightly. "Blue." Silence, like lanterns drifting far beneath the sea. Outside, the snow thickened around Dunmere. On the final night before reaching Valor, the traveler continued, Tomas confessed something to Morel. The tavern remained utterly still. He admitted he had begun hearing whispers from the bangle even while awake. Several listeners exchanged uneasy glances. "What did they say?" asked the innkeeper quietly. The traveler stared into the fire. He never fully explained. A pause, only that the whispers seemed to come from very far away. Another pause, and that they became louder whenever he slept. The flames shifted low beneath glowing embers. The next morning, the storms finally parted. The traveler's expression softened slightly, and beyond the fog, a faint smile touched his face. They saw Valor. Silence filled the tavern. The kingdom stood along towering cliffs overlooking a dark silver sea. His voice slowed, almost dreamily now. Tall bridges connected pale stone towers built into the mountainsides themselves. Thousands of crimson lanterns burned along the terraces and narrow streets. Another pause, and above the city, the traveler looked toward the firelight flickering across the ceiling. Hung enormous rings of black stone, suspended motionless in the sky. No one spoke. No one moved. The travelers were escorted immediately to the house of Vial. The innkeeper crossed his arms slightly. The family that owned the bangle. Yes, the traveler nodded. A very old family. Another pause. One older than the kingdom itself, according to Corvin. The fire crackled softly. The lord of the house received them privately that evening. The traveler's voice lowered now. His name was Edrin Vial. A pause. An aging scholar with silver hair and tired eyes. Another pause, and the moment he saw the ruby bangle. The traveler paused. He stood from his chair in shock. The tavern remained breathlessly silent. Edrin asked them only one question. The traveler looked slowly around the room. "Where did you find this?" Outside, snow drifted endlessly through the sleeping mountain village. The travelers explained everything. The fire burned warm and steady beside them. The watchtower. Another pause. The monastery. Another pause. The visions. The traveler lowered his gaze. When they finished speaking, Edrin became very quiet. Silence. Then, at last, the traveler said softly. He revealed the truth. The room seemed to tighten around the hearth itself. The ruby bangle belonged to his son. A long pause settled across the tavern. A son who had vanished 7 years earlier. The wind whispered faintly outside. According to Edrin, the traveler's voice lowered almost to a whisper. His son had crossed into another world. No one moved. No one breathed. And then, the traveler said quietly, the old man spoke the words that activated the bangle. The fire cracked sharply. The traveler looked slowly into the flames. And for the first time, a pause. A doorway opened before them willingly.